Hey guys, so Anna was taking a nap, so I figured, well, why not get into this video? So, um, if you haven't known, I was trying to do what I could do as a consumer, uh, not a consumer, but to try to fix the Sony Spiderverse without Spider-Man that no one asked for and Sony just keeps putting out. Um, but I will say Venom 3 doesn't look too bad. That said, what I started with, I did a two-part video where I basically tried to fix it from the beginning, which was to, have Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man and just kind of spin off from there, and that would be how we'd film our villain films, and I did a casting and all that stuff. That was about a two-part video, which led to a Sinister Six movie and all that stuff, which was what their original plan was for the spin out of the Amazing Spider-Man 2, which turned out to be a disaster. But then I started thinking, I'm like, well, you know what? Just like I did with my horror films, where I would take, okay, I have to follow up what happened in this movie and then fix things or whatever, which I've done several times with horror franchises like Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street and things like that, Friday the 13th. There's a couple videos on there if you want to watch those. And I just kind of give my idea of like, okay, kind of almost a pitch of like, here's okay, if I had to make a follow-up sequel to this movie that wasn't very good, or even if the movie was very good, and I had to, if I was put in charge of it, like, how would I have done this, and da-da. So, that's what, we're going to kind of do here. I did a video a couple months, I think it was a couple months ago now, good God. I had different glasses then. And it was basically making Venom our main character in the universe as like, well, okay, we're working without a spider character particularly, so let's just go with Venom as the main character. And I kind of did a follow-up of like, here's what I would have done with Venom 2, and this is what I would have led into to get to Venom 3, which was basically a Maximum Carnage film. But I still kept it open. I had Flash Thompson, Agent Venom kind of being sort of a sidekick or, another hero to help out. I set up Carnage. I kind of built Carnage over the movie before we got to the big Maximum Carnage thing, which is what they should have freaking done. So, since I did Venom, and Venom 3 hasn't come out yet, so I can't really do like what I would follow up with that. The other thing I think we need to establish is connections between these characters that are being introduced. Now, the other thing is I have to follow up Morbius and Madame Web. I have no choice. This has been like, make it work, Adam. Okay, shit. So I'm going to do my best to make this universe work to a point, at least in terms of connections, in terms of making these characters actually interesting and people actually wanting to see them, which will be very difficult with some of these characters. But so I have a whole list of characters that Sony owns the rights to or has some partial rights to. There's like over 500 freaking characters. Obviously, we're not going to use all of them. But what I'm going to try to do today is we're going to follow up Morbius. Okay, so what happened in the first movie, we had Milo and Morbius and the girl, whoever her character's name was, gets bitten too and probably has vampire powers. I don't care. But anyway, it was just a boring ass movie. But let's say we were going to follow up Morbius and continue this universe. Now, the after credits scene set him up interacting with Michael Keaton. And even Michael Keaton in interviews says he has no idea what the hell this was about. He really was just like, okay, whatever. So, to add some credibility, we're going to try to follow up on that kind of team up there, working together. So I don't know if we're actually doing a Sinister Six or what, but that's what we're going to try. Or maybe we're doing our own little Avengers-y, Spider-Verse-y thing. Now, obviously, I still think after I follow up Morbius and Madame Web, unfortunately, and eventually Craven once that comes out, but like, then I'm going to basically do what I would frickin' want to do and get characters in here that would actually maybe help this damn universe and maybe get a freaking Spider-Man in here. But right now I'm following with what we have to work with. Now, I did some research, looked up some characters that, villains or whatever that Morbius has dealt with in the comics when he's not being hunted by Blade. And there's not a whole lot to work with, but I have some characters here that we could introduce while also setting up connections in our universe. Because like I said, all we had in Morbius was Venom being like, or Morbius being like, I'm Venom, haha, no, I'm actually Morbius, you know, haha, funny line, yeah. And then in reference to that thing that happened in San Francisco, that's all we've got. We have no connection. Venom has not met Morbius whatsoever. There's no connection there. I think the other thing that's missing in these movies is almost a Nick Fury type character that's kind of trying to recruit this thing. So we need someone in here that's going to do that, I think, which I'm going to try to work through and figure out what that character is or who that character is. And that's, if you're going to work with that kind of team up thing, you kind of need somebody who's sort of your Professor X or your Nick Fury that's recruiting these people and stuff. Because right now, Venom has no reason to interact with Morbius or Madame Web or anything. So, like, he doesn't give a shit. So, it's like, if we're going to make this work, let's try to piece together what it is. So, the way Morbius left off, like I said, his Milo had bitten the girl, the nurse that was working with him, that was maybe a love interest, maybe not, I don't know. I barely care. So we left off with that. Milo's gone. I believe he's dead. Probably. So we're gonna set up some things here, but we set up a thing with him and Vulture. It's intriguing. One of the worst ADR things besides the entire Madame Web movie. But we'll get to Madame Web later. So we're gonna follow up Morbius here, and we're gonna start to build some connections because that's what we need to do. So I do have my list of characters here. So let me see if there's anybody on here real quick that maybe can be our Nick Fury-esque character that can be trying to build us together. Trying to get the team together, lead the team. Let's see, we got this person. Okay, that might work. Because technically she's a member of that. Okay. Yeah, okay. I have a solution. All right. So, while we can't directly reference S.H.I.E.L.D. because S.H.I.E.L.D. is an MCU thing and we're not allowed to do that, there's a character named Jessica Drew who is a Spider-Woman. Now, technically, Spider-Woman is not like spider power per se. She's not like just a female version of Spider-Man. That's more, probably like Spider-Gwen or something. But if we have her sort of being an agent of some other company we fucking make up, or we tie into some other company, let's do that. Let's have Jessica Drew be kind of our Nick Fury-esque person. As far as who we get casting, I'm not going to worry too much about that. I didn't cast in the Venom video, so I'm not going to do that here either, really. There's lots of different actors. Hopefully you get somebody who's good. But if we're going to recruit these characters that these movies are being made about, or these connections are being made about, we need to kind of establish somebody to be that kind of person that's bringing them together. So, as I said, Morbius interacted with Vulture, and Vulture is played by Michael Keaton. Now, Michael Keaton being in this movie would add credibility instantly, because it's Michael frickin' Keaton, So, we still have Jared Leto, although I guess we could recast, but we'll stick with Jared Leto. Hopefully he won't be too insane on set. And if he is, get his ass out of there. So, some characters we can introduce here is, I would say let's not immediately have him and Vulture teaming up together or stuff like that, but we can have a scene or two with them. And what we'll do here is there's the character we're going to make our villain is a guy by the name of Vic Slaughter. Vic Slaughter. Sounds like such an action name from the 80s. Oh, I'm Vic Slaughter. So, Vic Slaughter himself was actually hired to actually hunt down Morbius and kill him because, he's a vampire and stuff. And Morbius, he's kind of leaning the edge of anti-hero and villain. Like I said, he's fought Blade and stuff like that. He's fought Spider-Man, but he's not necessarily a bad guy. He's a doctor and stuff. So, so we can establish that a little bit more that he is, on the edge. Now we have to obviously address. Let me go ahead and look up the character's name because I have no idea what the female's character's name. I was so bored during that movie that I was just like, Who is anyone? Matt Smith's dancing was kind of entertaining. That was about it. And there was a nice some moments between him and Milo. I thought where they established their friendship in the beginning was decent, but that was about it. So there we go. Morbius. We got Morbius 2 song. Oh god, not Morbius 2. That's what we're doing here. Morbius. There it is. Okay, so we have Martine Bancroft by Adria Aja. Alright, so is Martine Bancroft a character from the comics? Let's see. Let's look that up. Because like I said, it's not like I've read a lot of Mark. She's a movie character. In the comics was the fiancée of Michael Morbius before he became one of his victims in her own right. And a weapon. She then served as an enemy and an ally of her old lot. By the end of the film, doesn't know. Oh, okay. Okay. So she is sort of a comic character, and they as fiance. So let's delve into that. I think we kind of have her being sort of maybe a side villain, not the main villain, but like sort of kind of figuring out this thing. She's got these powers now. Now she's not going to go full on crazy evil like Matt Smith did, but she'll maybe be kind of leaning towards it. So there'll be, like I said, sometimes allies, sometimes enemies. So there's some tension between them because now maybe she's even upset. She's like, this guy bit me because of the thing you did, and that's a whole thing there. So I gotta have some drama. Anyway, like I said, our villain is going to be Vic Slaughter. So Vic Slaughter is going to be in this movie, and he's going to be our villain. Now, what happens with Vic Slaughter, as I was saying, sorry I got distracted there, is he basically is trying to hunt. So that'll be kind of part of the movie will be him trying to hunt down Morbius. So he's almost Kraven, isn't he? But then what actually happens in the comics is he actually gets bit by Morbius, and he becomes a vampire himself, or kind of vampire. It's always kind of this weird thing where he's not technically a vampire, but he kind of is. It's a weird thing. But anyway, so that'll be kind of a thing. So interestingly enough, almost the same as the last movie. These are the problems of these characters, guys. It's like with Venom, it's like, well, I'm Venom, but guess what? There's other symbiotes, and I will find other symbiotes. Now, same thing here. You're a vampire, and now you're a vampire, and now we will fight as vampires. It's just like there's so much of the yin and yang. I mean, that kind of goes with some of the comic book scenes of like, I am Iron Man, but look, I have an Iron Man suit too, and I will fight you because we are similar. So it is what it is. But so that's what we're going with. Vic Slaughter is going to be our main villain here at the moment, and I do want to have sort of a guy in the chair, so to speak, not in the good guy sense, but the guy pulling the strings. It might be Kingpin. I'm not getting right ahead of myself. It might not be Kingpin. It might be a lesser known villain or gangster guy, but that wants to kind of deal with this thing. Not going to be heading up the thing, but he'll be kind of something like, yeah, Kingpin. Let's not use Kingpin. He's too good. Let's do a lesser villain that's maybe pulling the strings. Let's look at who we have here from this wonderful list of characters we have no reason to use. Let's see. It's another one of those villains that we could use. Jackpot, Jesus Christ. Let's see. Night Watch. Was there supposed to be a Night Watch movie that Spike Lee was working on? That was interesting. Madam Web, Jesus Christ. Okay, what is the name of that character? Big Wheel. We're making the whole universe about Big Wheel, guys. Alright, Mr. Negative, he's a cool villain. Silvermane. Oh, Silvermane, yeah! Either Silvermane or Tombstone could be the guy the gangster kind of pulling the strings. That's what we'll go with. As far as who's playing him, I don't know yet. We'll figure that out later. So we can have sort of a behind-the-scenes guy that's kind of like, all right, we can get this guy. Maybe he's the one that hires him to take out Michael Morbius because he thinks, I can't have this guy here. He's causing all sorts of things. He's eating people, whatever the case. He's biting people and turning vampires. And then he's got this other woman out there that's, she's not sure how to deal with her powers. So we have that whole thing going on. But yeah, Vic Slaughter's our villain. Tombstone, Silvermane, whichever one you want to do. Either one would go. Like I said, they're not going to get Kingpin in this Sony movie. Let's just admit this right now. Kingpin's, he's in Daredevil. He's doing his thing. maybe he'll interact with Spider-Man in the MCU, but we're not getting Kingpin here. We're gonna use these characters that we have. Okay, we're working with what we got. But maybe we can get a cool actor to play those villains. So maybe it's both of them together. But anyway, so like I said, we have our villain. Vic Slaughter's our villain. Maybe we can set up Blackout as well, who's kind of a demon-esque guy who kind of is a vampire. So there's that. We can kind of set him up in case we decide to continue this series and this is actually a success and not a complete failure like the first movie was. Morbin time. Morbius 2. More Morbin. Anyway. So anyway, what we have then is we have Jessica Drew show up. And we're also going to have some kind of scene with Venom actually showing up. We get Tom Hardy in here because let's get this universe together for God's sakes. So Jessica Drew is going to be playing an agent, and she will also get in the Spider-Woman suit somewhere in there and probably help Morbius out a little bit. But we start to get some units. They're talking to each other, saying, hey, we're really interested in you. We want this thing. We know what you've done. And they can talk with Vulture, too. We can have some scene with maybe Michael Keaton and Morbius and Venom all together talking with Jessica Drew. So we're setting up our sort of Avengers-y type of team that never existed in the comics, but we're making it here because we're Sony and who gives a shit, whatever. People will watch it. They'll watch it. They don't care. But we couldn't just do our Spider-Verse movies and ignore this whole thing. But anyway, at least we're getting, Spider-Man Noir with Nicolas Cage. That'd be cool. So that's what we're doing. We're kind of setting up an Avengers-esque style thing with our kind of not villains, but sort of anti-heroes. For some reason, Vulture's not a villain. But, okay. So yeah, we start to say, like, hey, Jessica Drew's being like, oh, we've been watching people. I myself have done a little heroing myself. Like I said, we just changed the organization so it's not S.H.I.E.L.D., but it's our version of S.H.I.E.L.D. Obviously, I don't want this to be a carbon copy of the Avengers, but if this is what we're going for, that's kind of what they were trying to do. Their Sinister Six. Now, I'm not trying to necessarily set up the Sinister Six to combat against them. I'm sort of, like I said, setting up some of our lesser villains. We get our Tombstone, we get our Silvermane, maybe Alexander Smythe. But, like I said, ultimately we have to get a Spider-Person. Which will be something that they're talking about. They'll be like, hey, there's a guy in New York. And we may make references to Spider-Man. I mean, the Morbius trailer had a picture of him. So let's make references to him. But before we bring him in yet, before we get off our asses and decide who's going to be our Spider-Man, too late. So that'll be a big battle between Morbius and our villain Vic Slaughter. And Vic Slaughter will supposedly die, but apparently in the comics he just keeps coming back. Something. But we'll just have him kind of disappear. Like, he'll just disappear. Him and the fiance, the nurse, kind of romantic interest, they'll kind of come to be cool with each other, but she wants to step aside and deal with what she's dealing with. And he said, I will help you in any way, and da-da-da. So yeah, we basically just kind of set up a future team-up movie here. We have Venom popping up. We have Vulture popping up. Michael Keaton already adds credibility to your film. We have someone good playing Jessica Drew, a solid actress. I don't know who exactly I would cast, but someone strong that's going to add credibility to your movie. And then, you can make references to some other women doing some things, teaming up, in wherever the hell they're at. I think they're in New York, right? In Madame, yeah, they're in New York. And saying, there's some stuff going on in New York, and I need you guys to come this way. So we're setting up some connections, Venom and them. We're starting to set up our own little Avengers-y type of team that won't be called the Avengers or S.H.I.E.L.D. because we're Sony, and let's just rip it off. But we set up some villains. We got Tombstone, we got Silvermane, Alexander Smythe. We'll get some more well-known villains like Rhino and things. So he's going to be in the Craven movie. So anyway, that's what we're going to do to follow up Morbius. We're just going to make this a double one. We're going to keep going, guys. We're going to keep freaking going. So Morbius happened. Morbius 2 happens. How the hell that happened, I don't know. But that's what we're working with. Yes. I said we've established some connections. We got our bigger players here. Michael Keaton's in this universe. He doesn't know why. But no one really knows why. He should just stay in the MCU. But anyway, we're working with it because, hey, it's cool. We got Michael Keaton, we got Tom Hardy, we got Jared Leto, and then a strong actress to play Jessica Drew. Boom. And then that leads us into a future team-up movie with some more characters that we'll establish with some other movies like Craven and a couple others. So, next, we follow up Madame Web. Whew. Oh boy. Now, real life, guys, this is never getting a sequel. We will probably never see these characters again. I'm sure most of these actresses will just go on to do other better things. Like Sydney Sweeney's been rumored for Black Cat. You know, the girl who was the other one, she's going to be Hawk Girl in the Superman movie. I'm sure the other actress has been in the Ghostbusters movies. That's Lucky. So, I mean, they're doing fine. Dakota Johnson will get work. So, I'm sure that actor who played the villain will get some work that actually doesn't crappily ADR his voice. So, everyone will be fine. But, since that movie was set in the past for some god-awful reason, we're going to jump ahead. Because we're going to just say, hey, that happened, and now Madame Web's here with these 3 Spider-Women. And it's interesting that Jessica Drew is also a Spider-Woman. So, we're going to make that connection, and what I would do is to set up our follow-up to Madame Web. I would not make it Madame Web movie. I would make it Spider-Women. Because we have some spider people. Woo! Yay! Finally some goddamn spider people. And yes, we will still have Spider-Man showing up eventually in this universe. But we're working with what we got right now. So we're following up Madame Web with Legend of the Spider-Woman or something like that. We're not going to call it Kiss of the Spider-Woman because that's a play and a musical, and we'd get sued. So, yes, Legend of the Spider-Woman. And the question becomes, and I need to look this up myself, who the hell are the villains for Spider-Woman? Let's find out. See, this is something that Sony could actually make the effort to do and make interesting characters. I'm doing literally just from Google. So, Spider-Woman villains. Spider-Woman villains, okay. Who do we got? Rogues Gallery. She has a Rogues Gallery. Interesting. Alright, so. Alright, so we have the Needle. Has a horrific modus operandi. Needle is an elderly tailor that lost an eye. His ability to speak to muggers. Discovered a paralytic gaze and started to attack young men as a costume villain. The Needle. Okay, we're not doing that one. The Brothers Grimm were posed mannequins. Ooh, that's creepy looking. Look at that picture. Oof. You can see it very well. Probably not. Yes, now the Silver Age villain, Mr. Dow, transfers his soul into 2 dolls and his wife. Well, that's creepy as fuck. It's kind of cool, though. Brothers Grimm. That's cool. Let's see. Werewolf by Night. Oh, well, Marvel's using him, so. Gypsy Moth. Oh, she created a cult. Interesting. Just can't get away with saying apologies for using Gypsy there. That's just the name of the character. Let's see. The Enforcer turned her into a criminal. Well, we have the Enforcer. He's not part of the Enforcers, though, so he's not as cool. So, turned her into a criminal. Ah, yes. So we kind of pose how he blackmails her. Okay, that's boring as shit. Hangman easily subdued Spider-Woman to save her. Hangman. Cindy 65 took on 3 Spider-Women from parallel Earths. Okay. Cindy Moon on Earth 65, the homeless spider, was never bitten to become Silk. Ah, interesting. Instead, she founded an evil spy organization to seize the power she had denied by chance. When she discovered Gwen's interdimensional travels, she stole it to technology. Later, Silk opposed her plans, taking battle. Okay, so she's an alternate, Queen Varenki. Oh, the scrolls. Can't do anything with the scrolls. Morgan Le Fay. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. And Madame Hydra. Is that Madame Web? Hail Hydra. Okay, so we can. I'd say we go with that. So if we're doing that, Madame Hydra and Morgan Le Fay feel like villains. Morgan Le Fay was used in one of those non-MCU connected Marvel shows, I believe. What was it? The It wasn't the New Warriors, because that never came out. Fuck, what it was? I didn't watch it anyway. It was a bunch of kids, I remember, and then there was Morgan Le Fay. So I would use Morgan Le Fay and probably Madame Hydra in there somewhere. Although the Hydra might be connected with the whole Hail Hydra. I don't know if that is. But yeah, I would say those would be our villains for the Spider Women to deal with. So we would obviously bring in Jessica Drew. So let's just hypothetically say we would have these 3 women back. These actresses came back. Okay, cool. I would focus Sydney Sweeney as kind of the main one, just because I think she's the bigger star of the 3. Not the other 2 are bad, but like, and then I would obviously have Jessica Drew involved too, because then you have 4 Spider Women together. Woot! And Morgan Le Fay, we'd get somebody really good to play that, like a decent name that could add some credibility and could play a good villain. Off the top of my head, I'm not really sure who to put in that role. But yeah, obviously much like the other ones, after credit scene, we can have them recruiting the Spider Women to join this massive team of craziness to stop some kind of threat, because there's always some kind of threat, right? So basically we have our sort of Spider Avengers, who just need a Spider-Man, right? But yeah, like I said, we can keep going with this. Kraven will be added eventually. You know, you have any other characters, Black Cat, Silver Sable, whoever else they end up throwing in this damn universe that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so there's some connections. I'm not saying this is the greatest idea in the world. I'm just working with what I got here. But yeah, I would just make it a Spider-Woman film. Battle Madame Hydra, battle Morgan Le Fay. Those would be our 2 main villains. The other ones didn't sound too bad, but I just don't know enough research. That was just off the top of my head. So that's what we'll go with there. That's how the matter. And it can be female-oriented. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If it's a good script, if it's a good script and you have good direction and at least semi-decent actors, the film can turn out good. But when you rush things and the CGI is bad and the IDR is bad and all the stuff that happened to Madame Web, then, yeah, no one's going to care. So like I said, we watched it on streaming, and as you can see our review on the channel, it's pretty awful. But it wasn't because it was female-led. That has nothing to do with it. It just wasn't a good film. It wasn't well done. There was just so many problems with it. And the more we forget about that villain that happened, the better, because that character's not even a freaking villain in the comics. A lot of what he was doing was Morlun, who would be an interesting villain and a creepy villain to use. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at with the Spider-Verse at this point. So we kind of set up some team-ups here and there with the more popular characters. Maybe we wouldn't use all 3 Spider-Women with the team-up. Maybe they just recruit one. You know, you can play with it. But you'd have Venom, you'd have Vulture, you'd have, or kind of reformed Vulture, I guess. We'd have Morbius, and then we'd have Spider-Women, Spider-Woman, eventually, maybe Kraven, maybe some others. And that would be kind of our heroes of this universe. Like I said, and that would be what you could go with if you weren't going to bring Spider-Man in at all, which I think is still a mistake. But the other thing that they could do, and this is just another idea, because the main thing they did with Madame Web that was kind of weird was setting it in the past as opposed to connecting it with the movies that are already going on, which can work if you're doing like, hey, Captain America, and he gets frozen in time, that he's in the modern time. But what they should have done is kind of do what you know how like Universal's Monsters thing, they decided to not bother to make it a shared universe because the Dark Universe was such a disaster. They should just like almost like what they're doing with the Batman thing of like, this is its own universe, or the Joker movies, this is its own thing. Just do that. Like, just like make your Spider-Man noir film. Make one with your other Spider characters. Make a Miles Morales show. Make a Silk show. Make Spider-Man 2099 futuristic one. That would be cool. Like, these are what I would focus on, because then you're getting your Spider characters there, and do a Spider-Woman thing too. That's fine. But like, do that. But like, you don't have to make some kind of Avengers-esque team, okay? Because there's no team like that exists in that with these characters. So like, stop trying to force it, Sony. That's the basic thing. That's what they should do, is do like more like, this is Elseworlds. This is not MCU adjacent. This is not, hey, these are going to pop up in the MCU, because no one cares. The only person that everyone would care about showing up in the MCU is probably Venom. But, like, that's about it. Nobody else cares. Nobody cares about it. Nobody wants Morbius to show up. Nobody wants Madame Web to show up. No one cares. So I know I'm getting off a little tangent here, but that's just kind of like, that would be my advice. Like, just, like, I'm making a movie, boom. It's centered, focused on this character. You have a villain. You have a hero. That's all you fucking need. That's all you really need, and some kind of story to build them up. Give them some backstory, give them some reason for existing, have them turn their villain powers, have them get their hero powers. Follow your own template, guys. You guys literally made the Spider-Man Raimi trilogy. What do we have in that? We introduced Peter Parker. We introduced Norman Osborn. We show each one of them getting their powers roughly around the same time. Set up, boom, there's your movie. That's all you have to fucking do. But for some reason, we can't do that right. But that was made more interesting because you had good villains that people cared about. So that's my idea overall. I don't know if I'll do another video on this. Maybe after Kraven and Venom 3 come out, maybe I'll do some kind of follow-up video on that. But right now, I think that's all I got right now for the Spider-Verse that doesn't need to exist. Is either, if you're going to do the connections, this is the way to do it. Actually connect these characters together somehow. I think the Jessica Drew working for non-SHIELD thing as a recruiter to try to get a team together would work. As far as who they're going to face off with, maybe you keep some of the Sinister Six-esque characters like Rhino and maybe Lizard shows back up. You know, have some of those characters come together, and you know, and that way you can have the villains for them to face. But ultimately, just do movies. Do movies or TV shows with these characters and just be center focused on, here's a character, here's a villain. That's all you need. You don't need 3 villains. You don't need 4 villains. If you're going for them facing off and against an organization of villains, okay, fine. But, like, just what you're doing isn't working, Sony. So, like, Spider-Verse movies are good. Like, there's your template there. And then go from there. Or just stop doing it. That would probably be better. But if you had to, that's what I would go about it. Focus on team-ups or focus on dislike. Here's a movie, here's a character, here's a villain, here's a hero. There we go. Here's our story of what we're doing with this character. Inspired by comics. And when I say inspired by comics, you don't have to do exactly fully on every detail of what was in the story. But you still need to respect some of the source material and not just be like, nope, we don't need that shit. You know, just like, you have to have a balance. Because this is an adaptation at the end of the day. And yes, some stuff doesn't transfer to screen well. Some stuff looks really bad with CGI. So sometimes you just gotta know what's gonna be your strengths. So yeah, don't change characters just to change characters, because that's dumb. So yeah, there we go, guys. That is my Sony Spider-Verse follow-up video of what to do to follow up Morbius and Madame Web, what to do to make connections. I'm not saying I'm the genius and that this would save their universe or that they'd make billions of dollars. I have no, like I said, I'm not in charge of this universe. You know, I'm no genius, I'm not going to say it, but I at least did some research, probably more research than they did, of like some, hey, here's a villain you could use, here's someone that could be interesting, here's a character you could bring in, you know, that's all you, if you're going to do this connected universe, you need to actually make connections, and they have not done that. So, like, that's what they have to do in order to at least make this somewhat salvageable. Because their Spider-Verse movies are good. You have good animation, you have good video games, so, like, follow that template. It's kind of like how DC for so long was messing up. At least it has some chance to turn around with James Gunn. But, like, just look at your animated films. Look how well those were made. Follow that template, or you hire some people that worked on that shit. Because they get these characters better than you are doing them. So, anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I'm going to rest my voice now because I've been talking a lot today. So, have a good one. Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe.